What crappy thing did your parents do? My dad got remarried when I was 11 and told me the next weekend. He told me it was a small wedding and only close family was invited. Frick you. Only close family. How much closer can you get? My parents are awesome, but one time my mom took out a knife and said it's time to put the dog down, and stabbed him. I was horrified but the dog didn't react. It was one of those plastic stage knives where the blade goes into the hilt when pressure is applied. I was young enough that I wasn't upset at her and was quickly just excited to play with the knife. But whenever I think back on that it's like Jesus Christ mom WTH. That read was a roller coaster. When I was a kid, my grandparents would send little Valentine's Day care packages to my brother and I. We'd get a few bucks, some candy and whatnot. Well, one year, my gambling addict grandma had scored really big and it also so happened to be the year my grandfather retired. So they felt like sending us a little extra. I think we each got something like $20 to $40 and some gift cards to McDonald's. It was a big deal to us. So we asked our mom and stepdad to take us to the mall that evening. Split custody. Mom would take us every other weekend for 2 nights to spend our cash on some toys or games or whatever. I got a Spawn action figure from KB Toys, old AF, and my brother bought a Resident Evil game. We were walking along in the mall talking about what we wanted to get with our remaining cash and my mom stops, turns around and shouts, "I don't know WHO the frick raised you to be so selfish. But in my day we bought our mother something for Valentine's Day and she turned around and walked off." I was speechless. My brother was speechless. My stepdad shook his head at her, told us not to worry about it and walked us to another store to buy her something from us out of his pocket. That's so terrible. My earliest memories are of them mum and stepdad arguing. After that from about 5-6 I had to deal with getting hit frequently by him, a fully grown man hitting a young girl with all his strength. As my mum did nothing, she had no compassion for me whatsoever. She just left me all day with this man who could snap in an instant. At the age of 8 my mum had my first brother. It only got worse. I was left to look after him. My stepdad had a very good paying job but he was barely home, so my mum never had much money on her. Not that she'd do shopping as she slept all day and all night. On the rare occurrences when I went to school I would leave and come home to see her in the same position as when I left. I barely went to school as I had to watch my brother. I also remember the first time I truly learned I couldn't depend on my mum. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix had just come out. My brother was still a baby and I was told it was lights out and bedtime. I accidentally dropped the hardback book onto the floor when moving and the next thing I hear were his footsteps coming up the stair. That sound terrified the crap out of me for years. I tried to run to the bathroom but I took a punch to the face. At 9, I had a black eye and busted lip. He stormed out of the house. I went downstairs to cry to my mum, get him to leave for good, and she just said to me if he'd meant to really hit you he'd have broken your face. Go back to bed. I tried telling people at school about what was happening at 10 to get help. A friend's mum came round and asked my mum about it. I was forced to say I lied. Anyway, this is getting far longer than I planned it to and it's probably going to get buried, but I just needed to get some stuff out. I've got to pretend everything is perfect with them now and all that stuff pent up eats away at you. My god, that's horrible. I don't know what your situation is like now, but I hope you both get out. If you are still in school I beg you to reach out to someone you trust. Hold true to your words. If the truth is out he won't be able to hurt you forever. My mum is basically the worst exaggerator liar of all time. Haha, I'm exaggerating. But still, she texted me the other week to tell me that my dad had gone blind and was rushed to hospital to have emergency surgery. I called, completely freaking out. Turns out that his eyesight in one eye had gone blurry. They did laser eye surgery that day and he was home and fine within the day. She drives me nuts with crap like that. I'm exaggerating. Learned from the best, or worst. My biological mother told me that the cost of raising me was a loan, not a grant. She actually expected me to give her $1,000 more until she dies. I haven't talked to her for almost a decade now. The cost of raising children are the civil damages you pay for kidnapping your children into existence. I mean, I don't actually like to think of it like that, but if you think your kids owe you crap, this is why they don't. When I was 16 I got so drunk at a party that I threw up all over the deck. and my friend texted my mom to pick me up. Puked 4 times on the ride home. My mom had no idea that I drank until that night. Next morning she wakes me up at 6 AM and tells me that she bought tickets for my siblings and I to go to a roller coaster theme park and that I have to come and spend the day there. Vomited after every ride. Lesson learned. That's brutal yet hilarious. Biological father is a flat out crappy person. My mother left him when I was 4 and took my sister and me with her. My mother got married young, so had no real way to support 2 kids, but worked very hard so we could get by. She remarried a guy who treated us like his own children. He was young too, and never made much money either, so we always struggled. He worked full time as a baggage handler, picked up all the overtime he could, plus worked as a painter to support us and his 3 other children he had with my mother. Even with all that, we still struggled, and at one point for 6 months we were homeless and forced to live with some church members. My biological father never paid child support. He ended up signing away his rights to us and we were fully adopted by my father. Fast forward many years and my biological father wanted to get in touch. He was amassing millions in wealth while we were living in the ghetto and attending the worst possible public schools. He tried blaming his lack of child support on my mother. You need to make a relationship and take as much $ as possible. Really? Give away my old Disney VHS tapes. Jesus Christ, mom. How many times do I have to explain that I can't go out and buy new ones because they're in the freaking vault, okay? I had about 40 tapes. Some I bought with my own allowance. Mum gave them to the neighbor despite the fact I still watched them regularly. The neighbor promptly sold them to a collector reseller for $300. All of my hate. Secretly mentally and emotionally abused my mother for years. He would tell her she was a terrible mother. All his family hated her. Made her stay in shape because he didn't like fat women. She weighs like 110 pounds at 5'3". They got divorced this year and she is still conditioned to give in to him. He is beyond cruel to her and tries to get away with so much crap. Like trying to paint her as a bad mother in court because she drinks alcohol and takes pills, aka her 1/2 glass of wine and her prescribed pills that she takes as directed and is now a fault because her pain ceased surprisingly after he left. And trying to take stuff that isn't his. She let him take a lot of stuff he wasn't entitled to, but when he tried to take my mom's tractor she uses to mow the lawn she put her foot down and called the police to intervene. He was beyond P. She dared defy him and not let him get his way, but I couldn't be more proud of her for standing up for herself. I'm really sorry, a lot of these stories are bulls, but this one actually is crappy. Pay my mom $100 cash every month for putting me on her car insurance. Every year she said it would go up. I got my own car and called to take my name off her account. In's lady said it was only $40 a month. Got ripped off by my mom from 18-21. If you are only paying for state minimum, yeah, it's only that cheap. But if you are paying for premium, it can get pretty expensive. Adopted a child. Sent him back. My father is a narcissistic butthole that makes you regret any passion you have, or any act you take. He has verbally abused my mother, and I throughout my upbringing. Countless times I have woken up in sheer panic listening them scream at each other at the top of their lungs. I hate him, and I'll be happy to see him finally go. Too bad only the good die young. He'll be around for a while yet. Have an uncle like this. Had a beautiful, kind, loving wife. Tortured her through her 5 years of cancer treatment for terminal cancer, then she dies. He's a smoker and alcoholic. Gets bladder cancer, survives. Still going. There's just no justice in the world. Told my parents I was getting beaten up at school. They beat me up for telling a teacher and making them look bad. Joke's on them. Soon as they get sick with old age. Guess who's getting a beating? That's a paddlin'. When I was 8 or something, every one of my friends had a PSP, PlayStation Portable. I asked my dad if he could give me one on Christmas. He didn't say a thing. When Christmas finally came, he told me and he got me the PSP. I was really excited. When I did open the box, there was nothing. I was pretty sad, to be honest. I periodically read stories like this. What could possibly make any otherwise sane parent think your kid will find that funny? I can get telling them you bought them an empty box and then getting them to go into another room where the thing actually is. But to just trick your kid in the name of crappy humor is incredibly fricked up. My mother's dog is the most important part of her life, and as such she refuses to leave her alone. She skipped the rehearsal dinner for my wedding, and left the day of the wedding after half an hour to be with the dog. Yeah, I know someone who cooks dinner for their dog, and carries it around constantly like it's a little baby. Never fed their kids growing up, but that dang dog gets a home cooked meal every night. When I moved out she wouldn't let me take my dog with me. She gave me the dog when I was 10, so I know she wasn't my dog. I didn't pay the vet bills, but at home I took care of her and brushed her and walked her, took her to her vet appointments, bathed her act. She was my life and I loved her since I didn't have too many friends growing up, and she helped me a lot, especially through my teen years. When I moved out my mom wouldn't let me take her. My mom didn't want to take care of her either, so one day she calls me up and tells me she made an appointment to have her put down. And she said if I didn't she'd call the cops telling them I stole her dog. I didn't have a choice. That's the one thing I will never forgive her forever. Well, my mom essentially stole $20,000 from my sister and I, each. I've posted about this before. Short version. My mom is a raging narcissist. Yes, I know about the sub for this, and has many bad qualities and has done some reprehensible things. When her father died, my grandfather, he left her a big pile of cash, and my sister and I $20,000 each. He didn't really secure the funds, though. He just put them in some account and my parents had total control of it. It was just supposed to be ours. Well, one of my mom's worst qualities is her materialism, so she would go on lavish shopping sprees and things. When her money ran out, she blew through our money, then maxed the cards out, drove us into poverty, and we've been there since. She's still baffled by how my father is debt-free. They've been divorced nearly 20 years now, today, and she's still struggling at all times. Well, Mom, maybe it's the fact that you buy a new car whenever you think your current one is acting funny, even when the mechanic says nothing is wrong with it. So, yeah, that happened. Honestly, this isn't much, but stayed together. These are two people who should have gotten a divorce 2 decades ago but stuck it out for the kids. Don't. It honestly fricks up how your kids view relationships as they get older. I second guess everyone who even shows a remote interest in me, and I honestly never want to get married only so I don't end up unhappy and lonely in a full home. That's not how I want my life to be. This is good advice. My parents didn't stay together, and I'm happier for it. They get along for exactly 2.5 hours at a time. You could set your watch by it. Then it's insert controversial political opinion, countered with controversial religious opinion, and all downhill from there. I got very good at dragging my dad out of the house and to the park at the 2-hour mark. My dad bought me an Xbox 360 for Christmas my sophomore year of high school and let me play it all night and then returned it the next morning. That's fricked up. My father travels for work, about 8 months a year. He really doesn't like my mother, so when he's not working, he travels for pleasure. He does decently well for himself, so it's never been an issue. He was always a send checks in the mail, and show up maybe 3 times a year with an armful of gifts kind of guy. That's fine enough, I suppose, because that was more or less always his role, and he never pretended to be, or want, anything more than that. My mother on the other hand is an insane drug addict and alcoholic who has always worked only a few days a week, and spent the majority of her time away from home doing other crap, partying, etc. There were about 3 years in the middle of my childhood where she stopped drinking and doing drugs, and started running to get in shape and eating healthy, in spite of the fact that she left me home by myself about 90% of the time and I was more than capable of being on my own. She dragged me with her to every one of her Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, which I retrospectively don't think is a cool environment for a 7-10-year-old. I believe it was an effort to impart some lesson or other, but I don't know what. She was a conniving and manipulative person on her best days, but in the sober years it was so insanely intensified. She was worse sober than drunk by orders of magnitude. She ran constantly, so much that she was somehow still never home actually. She ran so much between her marathons and training sessions, presumably without enough healing or downtime or something. I don't really know, that she terribly injured a lot of the joints in the lower half of her body and got on pain meds from the doctors. Cue the spiral back out of control. Enter alcohol, coke, etc. I see them as human beings, and we all have flaws. I was born when they were still in high school, so I suppose they felt robbed of their youth. They both resented me for that, and openly discussed it pretty often. I dunno. They did a lot of crappy things, I guess. I don't talk to them and haven't in years. I don't hate them. They just have nothing to offer to me, or anybody else, and I really don't care to waste my time or energy on communication with them. TLDR. My dad stayed away from home because my mom is an insane junkie, and left me there with her too. If there's need for it, I guess I have some stories I can dig up, but this is the basic setting for it all. Mom told me to go live with my dad since I love him so much. I was just watching a movie minding my own business when she started yelling at me and said that. I still don't know why she did. Recently, my mom gave me a gift bag at a friend's funeral with a dead rabbit in it. More generally, a lifetime of manipulation, abuse and turning people against me, just because I got therapy and learned to stand up for myself. Did she explain why she gave you a dead rabbit or? My parents went to Disneyland without us, to teach us a lesson. Overall they did a good job raising me, but my mom is a very manipulative person and her way is the only right way. She was also the queen of the compliment with the qualifier. Pretty dress, but it'd look better on you if you lost 5 pounds. I like your haircut, but the color is just too dark. Your eye makeup looks good, but you have too much blush on. It wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I realized this was not normal behavior. Eventually, I called her out on it and God, I'm just trying to help you. I'm your mother and I have a right to say how I feel. Yeah, well I have a right to keep you at arm's length too. So I do. Much happier these days. I have children of my own now and I will never manipulate them or speak to them the way my mother spoke to me. HOLY. Crap. I didn't realize just how annoyed and frustrated I get with my mother until now. Rubs hands and takes a deep breath. My mother loves drama. She's a huge drama queen. I mean awfully huge drama queen. When something bad happens it sounds like some terrible drama writer wrote it to garner feels before the answer comes out. Son, I just got off the phone with so and so. You have to answer, or else she won't. Me. What happened? Her. So and so is in the hospital. Pause for her to continue. Realize she won't. Me. 4. What? Her. Well they say so and so had a heart attack. And it takes away from the news for a moment and I can't stop thinking about how I can boil pasta in 3 minutes with my blood. It's so frustrating. Another thing. When you're happy, she's not. When you're unhappy, she is happy. Not like she wishes upon that to happen. Just for some reason your misery makes her feel better, but if she sees you are having a great time she has to walk around in a mood and cause a ton of drama. Oh, and the classic no I don't need help with this even though you started doing IT and I said I could do IT but now I am mad and will bring IT up in the future on how you never help out around here because poor little old Emmy. Hahaha, I think you just recreated the phone call I had with my mom yesterday verbatim. Like she needs you ask her questions to feel important. My sympathies. Whenever I would take a long time to get ready, i.e. not ready to leave right when my mom was, my mom would say it's not like it's your prom. I took this to mean that come prom, I could take my time and enjoy the day at my pace. Wrong, come prom, I decide to take my time as my mom rushes around trying to hurry it up, because if it's not about her why are we even doing this? When she finally became frustrated that it couldn't be over fast enough she said, OMG little scoust, hurry up. It's not like it's your wedding day. After a quick discussion on why I was enjoying my time at my leisure, my mom promptly tells me she never planned on letting me enjoy my prom experience and that at my wedding she already had a snarky remedy ready for when things didn't progress at her desired pace. Needless to say, that was the day I decided she would never be invited to my wedding, and one of the last straws that made me decide to never speak to her again. She already had a snarky remark ready. The level of awful this takes. Planning to say something rude at your own daughter's, I'm assuming, wedding years in advance. Sorry. I was folding laundry one day because it was always my chore. My mother, who is completely heartless and a possible narcissist, told me with 100% honesty that the reason she had kids was so they could do all the household chores and she wouldn't have to. My mom says this all the time to me, Back during my mother's childhood, a babysitter had eaten her chocolate bunny the night before Easter. Her parents didn't notice until morning when the stores were closed, so she watched her brother bite into his bunny while her basket didn't have any. She was in tears. The event was memorable enough that grandma recalled it decades later. Then on Halloween when I was 8 years old, several friends and I went trick-or-treating. Afterward I offered all the parents their choice of the candy from my bag. Because sharing is what you're supposed to do. Other mothers accepted a piece but my mother said no thanks to the offer. By the time I woke up the next morning, 90% of my candy was gone. Mom had gotten up in the middle of the night and gorged herself on it. When I confronted her, she first tried to insist that that was all the candy the bag ever had. I showed her the pile of empty wrappers and the kitchen garbage, and then she tried to tell me I had eaten it myself. I asked her to replace what she had taken and she refused. She had enough money but she refused to spend it even at after holiday sale prices. There were worse things she did. At one point CPS nearly pulled me out of the home. But in terms of pure shittiness, this was a standout. You should have broke a bunch of her crap. My mother hit me with a bamboo stick while she was in a temper because my brothers had pee her off. My father comes home, asks me why I'm crying. I said mum hit me with a stick. Show him the welts. She denies it. I have to go to my room. Miraculously forgotten about. That's not the worst, but my first real memory of my mother's temper. I was 5. Got this. My dad only hit or spanked me a few times when I was younger, but it was never to teach me a lesson or something. It was just always because he was mad and I was there. Makes it more fricked up in my mind. At least parents that beat their kids as punishment have some kind of fricked up logic to their actions. Shortly after my dad passed away, my mother disowned her stepson, my 1/2 brother, for being gay. What a bee. My mom invited me and my then boyfriend, now husband, to a cookout at their house and specifically asked me what time I would be there. I told her and she said great. See you then. The day of the cookout I called her twice and she didn't answer, so I called my little sister. My sister then told me that all the food was gone. I laughed and then asked if she was serious. She was. When we arrived, my mom had made sure all the food had been eaten up. I had to go and make our own food and I was so embarrassed. When my ex-wife first got pregnant, we unfortunately lost it. I went around to all my family and friends who lived in the area and told them in person, as I believe something like that should be done in person, and almost everybody offered their condolences and asked if there was anything they could do. The one person who didn't was my mum. I told her and her immediate reaction was that it was my fault and I deserved to lose the baby. What an utter C. First time I went to the dentist, my dad told me we were going to Disneyland. Oh god, do I have to pick one? Raging alcoholic mother decided on New Year's almost at midnight that she wanted to take the bus downtown. All of a sudden, she was plastered, so I followed her. She made it to the bus stop and then passed out on a snowbank, and I carried her home. She would routinely come into my room and tell me about how she wanted to kill herself. Had boyfriend who tried to pay off me and my sister to keep out of the house so he could bang her while she was wasted. I got sick of this and called the cops. Turned out the dude had multiple assault warrants out. She tried to apologize. I took my sister and we stayed at a friend's. Fell off her elliptical machine and smashed her head open. Got blood all over the house. Then absolutely refused to sit down when paramedics arrived. Drinking really fricks people up. It's not really a crappy action that they did, but my parents are always yelling. I cannot stand it when people yell. They yell on the phone. They yell making dinner. They yell talking to the dogs. It's not even angry yelling sometimes. It's just yelling. It's like that loud family on SNL. Literally, it's just constant screaming. I just came back from college and I noticed that I developed bags under my eyes within 4 days of coming home since I'm constantly stressed out by the screeching. My dad would occasionally go through my room and throw away or donate a crap ton of stuff, and a few times completely cleaned out my room because of whatever. One time after Christmas all my presents got boxed away because my room wasn't clean. My parents would just decide I needed to donate stuff, and when I explained why I had trouble with that, generally using something as a punishment does that, they would tell me to get over it. Needless to say, that was super helpful. There was also one point I remember my dad was watching Hoarders and made a comment stating I could end up that way if I didn't change. I was like 10, maybe a bit older. Yep, I've unfortunately developed a sort of fear of getting rid of anything, and I'm trying to get over it, but it's rather difficult. Getting better though. I wasn't allowed to go to prom. When I brought the invitation home to show my dad and mark on the calendar, he asked me who I was going to go with. I said my friends. Only lesbians go to proms with friends. Either get a date or you don't go. So I didn't go. I had to watch my friends talk about their plans to go, and carpool for a limo ride together, and show off their prom dress pictures. I had a job. I didn't want an expensive dress that I was only gonna wear one time and a cake of makeup on my face. I would have been happy with a Goodwill dress. The one by my house has very nice ones, and a makeup hairdo in my own bathroom. So of course the week of prom, my dad asks what my plans are. I'm not going. Why not? Nobody asked me. Well, why didn't you ask anybody? They said no. 2. What then followed was a 2-hour lecture about how if I wasn't such an introverted, social anxiety-ridden dreamer who hangs out with one group of 5 people, I would have gotten a date. He has no memory of those conversations. I won't go into all the details, but my dad and my stepmom were both working full-time, recovering alcoholics, and raising 4 kids, and I was the middle child. I never noticed it but didn't get the attention I needed when I was younger. And, if I did get attention, it was for all the wrong reasons. They were good, hard-working people, but it's hard to give attention to the middle child when you have so much to juggle, including your own addictive tendencies. So if you have kids now, and especially if you're an alcoholic, just make sure they are getting what they actually need. This is tame compared to many of the other responses, but my parents were way too open with my sister and I about how much money we didn't have. No, we really didn't have a lot, but it caused us to grow up afraid we were going to be kicked out of our house or something at any second, and it was never that bad. I can understand the logic behind why they did it, but it really just led to us having such anxiety and guilt over something we never should have had to worry about and wasn't our fault. I love my mom, but when I was in 5th grade my parents had already been separated, and my mom moved to another city 2000 km away from my hometown. I was invited to go for the Christmas break for 2 weeks. Naturally I was excited for that, but 2 weeks later I was told I wasn't going back and my mom had full custody of I found out not long ago that she didn't have full custody, but she had money and my dad didn't, so he couldn't get me back. Looking back I see that it was best for me to move with her as my hometown is riddled with drugs and crime, but it was a crappy thing to do nonetheless. This seems minor compared to a lot of people's stories, but my parents are very vocal about how disappointing I was. Even from an early age I was made to feel like a disappointment because they wanted a daughter and not another son. I used to have a massive Lego and action figure collection when I was a child. Eventually, my mom figured I had grown too old, and while I was away, took all of them, sold it, and pocketed the money. Easily worth almost $1,000, my dad told me, didn't see a cent of that money. My parents are Christians, very old-fashioned. Their punishments for just not cleaning my room was severe, taking my computer, turning off the internet, etc. I learned to live with that crap and I was always very obedient with what rules they had. Was never a bad kid who did drugs, partied when they weren't looking. I was 22 and in a relationship at the time and they were going on a vacation. They reminded me no girls in the house while we are gone, which I was going to obey, mainly because they probably asked the neighbors to tell them if they saw anyone come over and I was afraid of their wrath. As I always did, I go to my girlfriend's house the day they leave and my GFS mom tells me my dad Facebook messaged her and asked her to keep an eye on the kids while we are gone and make sure they aren't at our house. My parents did not know or meet my GFS parents before this either. My GFS mom said it was ridiculous that they did that and was chill. I lost it and really let my parents have it. I was 22. I moved out as soon as I could after that. Joke is on you mom and dad, we just fricked at the GFS house lol. Destroy my self-esteem and make mental health issues develop slowly over the years to feed their narcissism. Me too, thanks. They promised to take me to a theme park near us if I learned my times tables. They didn't. I learned at age 8 that no matter how hard I worked, it didn't pay off. Frick, I lost count of the number of times my parents set a goal with a reward and then didn't follow through with it because they never thought I'd reach the goal. In their minds, they thought they were getting me to try harder, but really they just taught me it's not worth trying. I feel for ya, stranger. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.